Are you a natural networker and connector, but often find yourself on the outside of deals watching everybody else make most of the money? If so, then you might be a deal maker. In this video, we're going to be diving into the Wealth Dynamics Dealmaker profile type. We're going to be talking about the winning and losing formulas of people like SoftBank founder Masayoshi Son, Rupert Murdoch, and Donald Trump, who, whether you love him or hate him, is a perfect example of a deal maker. This video, like all the videos on this channel, is designed to help you with your business. So if you like it, please go ahead and click the like button. Leave us a comment down below or a question if you have one. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell so that you never miss an episode. Okay, so we just finished up our first 5 minutes, which is really just about allowing everybody to get on and say hello. What we're going to go into next is differentiation, which is talking about how not all deal makers are the same, but then at the same time, they're very different from mechanics, which I just finished the mechanic profile. So it's really fun to come talk to y'all because you're the opposite of them. We're going to get an individualization, which is how you specifically are different from other deal makers. And then we'll spend 10 minutes going into the application. What does it take as a deal maker to actually build wealth? And then we'll finish it up at the end with 15 to 20 minutes of Q&A, just depending on how many questions that you have. So the first thing to look at for us is actually differentiation. So let me just share my iPad screen here and we'll dive in. Okay, so many of you have probably seen this model before. This is the Wealth Dynamics Square. Now, the Wealth Dynamics Square is what allows us to understand our place and how we're different from everybody else. So you'll see here that you're down here at the bottom right side of the Wealth Dynamics Square, and you are a deal maker. Now, as a deal maker profile, this means that you have a specific way you think and a specific way that you do things. And each of us are different in the way that we think and the way that we get things done. So for the deal maker, you are going to be on this thinking dynamic right here and on this action dynamic right here. And you're a corner profile. So what this means in Wealth Dynamics, we always talk about wealth being what's left over after the money goes away. You know, we look at the lottery winner who wins $1 million and then a year later is in debt 500,000 versus if somebody like Elon Musk had a reverse lottery and we took away all of his money, he'd be right back up on top in a few years. So what makes those two people so different? And the answer comes down to whether or not they have wealth. And all too often we get focused on money and we miss out on wealth. So if wealth is what's left over after the money goes away, how do we actually build wealth? And so we have a formula for that, which is wealth equals value times leverage. Now, certain profiles are better at creating value and certain profiles are better at creating leverage. What it comes down to is how you think versus how you act. So on the thinking dynamic scale, at the top here of the thinking dynamic, we have the intuitive thinking dynamic. So up here at the top is intuitive. Let me actually just write that here. So the more you are towards the top of that arrow, the more you're going to be able to connect invisible dots and see the future of what could be. And the more that you're down here, which is more sensory, is the more grounded in the here and the now, being able to see what's right in front of you, being able to answer the questions. When do I need to be somewhere? Where do I need to be? And that is actually where the deal maker shines, is you're down here in that sensory thinking dynamic, which means that you can connect dots, but they're not some invisible dots up in the sky that are in the future. The dots that you're connecting are right in front of you, right here on the ground that you can take action on today. This is the reason why deal makers can, in a matter of one deal, make $1 billion, whereas somebody like a creator may have to spend years building a company and creating products to get the same $1 billion because they're creating something into the future, whereas you're creating something right here, here and now, and actually not even having to create it. You're usually just connecting those dots. And so the thing to understand here is that the more you are sensory, the more you are down here, the more present and in the now you are. Doesn't mean that you're not intuitive at all. It just means that you are more sensory than you are intuitive. Now, where you are also on an extreme is in the difference in your action dynamics. So on the left side over here, the action dynamic is what we call introverted, right? So the introverted action dynamic, actually a better place for us to write that would be right here, introverted. Which of course means on the other side of the scale, it's extroverted. Now, it's easy to assume that what I'm saying here is that people on the left are more to themselves and people on the right are, more outgoing. But that's not exactly what we're talking about. In wealth dynamics, the action dynamic is how do you get things done? In other words, if I bring you a problem, are you going to say, how do I do that? And ask that question, how, and you're going to go research and figure it out so that you can do it yourself. And that may take God knows how much time. Or are you going to take the simpler path for you where you say, extroverted, who can get this done for me? So the deal maker being on the right side of the wealth dynamic square is actually going to be all about the who. They're going to be all about the extroverted action dynamic. Who needs to get this done? My wife has a deal maker wing. You just met her, Grace. And I do not have a deal maker wing. I am innovation. I am intuitive. I am answering the question what. And so whenever there's a challenge, I always know what to do, but she's better to know who needs to do it. But then also as a deal maker, you guys are going to know when it needs to be done or where it needs to be done. So that sensory ability for you to be down here in this corner makes you a very, very important member of a team if people are somewhere else on the square. Say, for example, you have somebody like me where I'm a creator. Now, if you look at creators, we're not all the same, but I happen to be a very dynamo creator. So that means I'm always coming up with new stuff, new ideas, what all day long, right? In fact, I've got a whole Dropbox file on my computer that's full of all the whats that never were. And so what happens is I need somebody to take that what to the who, and I need somebody that can take that what and that who to the when. Well, you have the ability to mix the when and the who, and that's what's really valuable about being a deal maker. But as I said, not all deal makers are created equally. So let's talk about beyond the differentiation. Let's talk about the individualization. So let me share my screen here. Okay. So over here on the right, you see what is called the spider graph. And the spider graph shows us where this person's energy actually is. So not all deal makers are created equally. Perfect example is this one right here. This is a deal maker who's actually fairly balanced. She's got 32% blaze and 28% tempo and 24% steel and 16% dynamo. Very different from this deal maker who's 40% tempo, 40% blaze, 20% dynamo, and they ain't got no steel. So why is that important? Well, because when you get your 36-page Wealth Dynamics profile report and you read through that, you're going to have parts of that report that feel like the most amazing, aha, now I get it, I see what I've been doing wrong moments. And you're going to have parts that you read and go, that doesn't really sound like me. And the biggest risk here is that because it doesn't immediately sound like you, you might abandon the system and say, Wealth Dynamics doesn't fit me perfectly. Please understand that this report is written for all deal makers, not for you. So what that means is to whatever extent your percentages are not 50% blaze and 50% dynamo, some of this stuff isn't going to really hit home and just nail you. Don't use that as a reason to dismiss all of the work, because Wealth Dynamics, while it can help you understand a lot when you first read your report, it's over time, it begins to expose you and begins to show you its truth in your own visceral experience of living that profile. In other words, I'm a creator profile. I've got star mechanic wing. I love to be in creation. I love to be coming up with stuff. I love to be making products. But as an extroverted creator, I actually enjoy more than anything building products and companies and movements, whereas a more introverted creator would just be inventing things. A deal maker that happens to have more of a blaze position than having a tempo position is probably going to be really great at networking, connecting, closing deals, whereas the kind of looking after and making sure things are taken care of after the deal is closed may feel a little bit weaker. And so what happens as you begin to really understand your Wealth Dynamics profile is you begin to take actions in your life that allow you to stay in flow. And that flow means living according more to your spider graph than it means living according to your Wealth Dynamics profile type. So let's take a look at these and see how well you feel like they really go home and hit home for you. The strengths of the deal maker is that you're outgoing, you're entertaining, you're approachable, you're really great at listening to other people, right? You're always connecting with people and you're quick to see the opportunities. Deal makers are in their best environment when they're on the phone, when they're doing something. They always say that a deal maker is better at making a deal over a salad than a spreadsheet, right? And so you being out there connecting with people, that is your superpower. But that comes with a kryptonite. And that weakness is really that you need structure in order to get results. It's very easy for you to get lost or caught in the weeds, often too quick to please, often mischievous. I know that's true for a lot of deal makers that I know, including the president of the United States right now, easily distracted by others and their ideas and really unsure of their own identity. And so when you look at a deal maker, you say, wow, those are strengths, those are weaknesses. Like, how does the deal maker then take those strengths and weaknesses to go out and produce real wealth so that I can have that value and that leverage in my life so that I can create long-term sustainable financial abundance in my life. But then also, if the money goes away, I can go make another deal. Oftentimes it is said that a deal maker can make more money in a single deal than a creator or a trader or anybody else can make in years. And so understanding that that is your power, now let's shift into talking about how you actually are going to create wealth with this. As always, building wealth begins by building a foundation. So your foundation is going to come from focusing on your relationships. And the higher level your relationships are, the bigger deals you can do. The time it takes you to do a $100 deal is not that different from the time it takes you to do a $1 million deal. So focus on building your managers and players, right, to support the deals you do, right? That way you can just be out there doing deals, and align with mechanics and creators who can provide you with the assets to actually go make these deals happen. Right. I'm a creator profile type. I came up with some products this year. I was super excited about those products. I went out, I marketed them, and people were really interested in them. And so I actually had a deal maker come onto my team who would then have phone calls with all those individual people. And all he had to do was close the person on the call into the product. He didn't have to come up with the product, innovate the product, right? And he was able to do that. But he was also very smart. And after we created that and he did that for me, he went on and he found deals and bigger deals and bigger deals. In fact, I can't even get him to close deals for me on my team anymore because he keeps going for bigger deals. That's the path of the deal maker, making the next deal always bigger than the one that you have right now. So let's talk about how the deal maker actually creates wealth. You're going to create wealth by investing your time in picking the right deals and the right people and managing negotiations, right? So this is the big thing. You need to make sure you have that time. Now, you really create wealth when you're acting as the opportunity finder, right? I used to be a real estate investor, and the best person to have on my team is someone that can just be out there finding and making deals for me. So seeking out the value differentials, right? We call that arbitrage. So when you can see, oh my gosh, if I bring this deal to this person, it improves their life in this way and their life in this way, and then I'm going to get some of what's in between, right? So bringing together buyers and sellers is a really valuable place to be as a deal maker. So make sure you clear the deck. Make sure that you have the time to really do this job well, managing those negotiations, finding the right people, and most importantly, having those right deals. Now, how do you create value? Well, you create value by focusing on building a team to seek out the deals, right? So if you think about some of the most famous deal makers, right? Another one besides Donald Trump is the founder of SoftBank, Mr. I think it's Masayoshi Son. Don't quote me on exactly how to say his first name. But what he did is he built a team that would go out and identify Silicon Valley, American companies, and then he would then take those companies, invest in them with capital from Asia, mostly China, and he was able to build a multi-billion-dollar fund with that, where he got to keep a piece of that action. So invest time in building relationships with financiers and advisors and other people that can find opportunities for you, so that you're not just the one out there finding all the opportunities. Understand that your internal value, the value that you're bringing to the marketplace, everything we talked about before this has really been commercial value, but your internal value is going to be in developing negotiation skills, reading the 10 commandments of negotiation or the art of the deal, right? Understand that it's both knowing how to negotiate and being really tuned into the market that you are negotiating in, that is going to give you the ability to be that value piece between buyer and seller when you're making that deal. Now, it is no secret that many deal makers have been cut out of their own deals, where they bring two people together and they don't own the value that they create. So it's very important to know that it's not just about finding the deal, it's about controlling it. Your ownership comes down to the relationships on both sides, but then also contract paperwork, making sure that your position is set in stone before you even do that deal. Okay, you need to become that critical link without which the deal cannot take place, right? That is where you're going to be able to capitalize on the value that is created. So think about that. You're not making your money from the time you're putting in and connecting people. You're making money from the size of the value created from that connection, right? I have been part of real estate transactions where simply by making the deal, I walk away with $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 at closing before anybody begins to make any money. And I'm not even a deal maker, right? So if I could do that, I'm sure you could do something very similar and probably even create more leverage and value in your life, because that's going to be something you're doing from a place of naturality. So let's talk about how we leverage this, because value is only the first piece of the wealth equation. It's wealth equals value times leverage. The value that you create by having a consistent record of being able to put together good deals can now be magnified. So you can take that record and say, look, I have this credibility, right? People know that I'm good at making deals. They're going to want to come do more deals with me. In the same way that Mr. Son kept putting together more deals into his SoftBank fund, right? In the same way that he did that and got that track record, in the same way that Donald Trump got his track record, love him or hate him, he's a deal maker and he made it work for himself all the way to the top, right? You're not going to start there though. That track record cannot be established out of the gate. And this isn't some fake it till you make it kind of strategy. You need to align yourself with what is real because your reputation depends on it. So begin by leveraging your time, but other people's credibility. Then eventually, as you and your team begin to develop more knowledge and credibility of your own and relationships that you have, you'll start to leverage those as well. But ultimately, you want to make sure that you secure your cash flow because this is a lot of times where the deal maker gets cut out of the deals. So make sure when you're doing a deal, when you're bringing people together, determine your cash flow in advance and make sure that there is no confusion. Okay, now you want your cash flow to come from the deal itself, not necessarily future profits. So you may feel kind of allured into like the equity and getting a piece of the upside and all of that. And if you can get some of that, go for it. But don't take that at the loss of getting paid now. You want a front end commission and a back end commission and auxiliary fees, right? I had a deal maker mentor when I was in real estate, and he literally showed me like close the deal, make money, okay? Sell the deal to an investment fund, make money, and then own a piece of it long-term so you make money. And he's literally making money in and out and sideways and all these different angles. And the bigger the deal and the bigger the players, the bigger chunk he was able to get for himself and his family, making more again in one check going into his bank account than a lot of people might make in 2 or 3 years. So make sure that the money you make is related to the wealth created, not the time you spent getting the deal done. And make sure that the value creator and the value receiver in that deal understand that you are here to help create value. And that's what you're taking a piece of. You're not here just to trade your time. So this is what it is really like to be a Wealth Dynamics deal maker as a wealth creator. However, you may be right now a deal maker that says, Trey, this all sounds great, but it's really big and I need to pay bills next week, right? I'm not in a place where I can think about like this big picture of deal making. And I want to have empathy for that because yes, you're right. You need to start with where you are and grow from there. And for some people, if you're at the bottom of the Wealth Lighthouse, and if you're not sure what the Wealth Lighthouse is, please go watch the Wealth Lighthouse or Wealth Spectrum video that I have on YouTube, and you'll see that there's 9 different levels of mastering being a deal maker. Well, if you're at that first or second level, you're not going to be out there like making your living off of making deals. So you're going to need to get yourself onto a team. Or maybe you're watching this video and you're just thinking about deal makers and you aren't one. And you're wondering, well, how would a deal maker fit on my team if it's somebody that needs to go out and make deals for me, but as soon as they make a bigger deal, they're going to leave my team? Well, it's actually by understanding that deal makers are peacemakers. So externally facing, we just talked about how they build wealth. Internally facing as a member of a team, deal makers are really great at making sure everybody feels good, right? Don't expect them to go out cold calling. They thrive in building on the relationships that they already have. Right? So if you have a community, great person to manage that community to take look after everybody, make sure that they're taken care of is actually that deal maker. You want to work with deal makers to nurture the relationships that you already have within your team or within your community. And when things get too hot in the team, oftentimes the deal maker is the one that cools it down. So a lot of times your HR person will be a deal maker because they've got enough of that outgoing people person energy, that blaze energy, but they've also got the grounded tempo, slow it down. They don't talk like Trey, right? And they are able to really make people feel seen and nurtured. And that's the value of having a deal maker on your team.
Okay, deal makers, that's all we got for today. If you are a deal maker, awesome. I'm going to tell you in a moment how you can get into flow using your profile. But first, if you're someone who doesn't know what your Wealth Dynamics profile is yet, you can actually find down in the description below a link to go take the Wealth Dynamics profile test. It's normally like $100. You can get it at a discount down there. And if you are a deal maker and you'd like to get some help putting your business into flow, there's also a link for you to reach out to a member of our team. We'll hop on the phone and help you figure out what your best next steps just might be. This video, like all the videos on this channel, is designed to help you get into more flow in your business. So please do us and other entrepreneurs the favor of sharing this video, liking this video, commenting down below with your biggest takeaway. That way more people who could use this information are able to find it. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel already, go ahead and do that now. Click that notification bell so that you never miss an episode. And until next week, remember, keep finding your flow.